So good morning, everyone. My name is Parag Chapre, and today I'm going to speak about how to integrate Azure AD with Dynamics 365 HR, and also how we can map a user to person within the HR system. So introduction about myself. I'm working with 4Vision as a technical solution architect from last 4 years. And I have more than 14 years of experience in Microsoft Dynamics, such as finance and operation, human resource, Power Platform, Power BI, and also on the Azure integration. I am a Microsoft Dynamics HR community star from last 2 years. Also, I'm contributing to Microsoft community. I'm very passionate about writing blogs and articles. You can visit my website, which is paragchapre.com. I also write the articles on the Microsoft community, also on my company website, forvision.com. I'm living in Netherlands with my family from last 5 years. So today's agenda is today I'll speak about three integration, which is very useful for the HR people. The first integration is about when a new worker is hired in Dynamics 365 HR or finance and operation. This will create a new user in the Active Directory. The second integration is about when a worker information is modified. For example, your first name is modified, last name is modified, or job title. This will update the user information in Azure Active Directory. And the last integration is this integration automatically map a user with person based on his or her primary email ID. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so how many people know about Dynamics 365 HR? Maybe there are a couple of people who already know about this functionality, but I'll just tell what HR is doing here. So Dynamics 365 Human Resource is a complete and innovative solution for human resource management. This provides HR people to connect and operations data to optimize their workforce cost. And at this moment, Dynamics HR provides lot of functionality for the HR people, such as employee self-service, where employee can create their leave requests, or they can also create their benefit requests. Also, it provides the leave and absence, benefits, compensation, and your employment development capabilities in Dynamics 365 HR. Okay, so why I created this integration? There are a lot of cases in my care in the HR people. So I'm working with HR model from last 4 years, and I always get a questions from customer how they can minimize the manual process because in most of the big companies they are hiring a people in a bulk, let's say 1,000 or 10,000 peoples in a month or in 2 months, and they have to create manual user in their systems, and this is very difficult for the IT admin team. So with this integration, this will automatically make it possible for the IT admin team. So let's say the first integration. Okay, so when a worker is hired in Dynamics HR, this will create a new user in Active Directory. So when the user is create an Active Directory, this will create information like first name, last name, department, job title, mobile number, also the email address. And to make this happen, we need certain things for the IT admin team. So they must have access to the Azure Active Directory. They must have access to Power Platform so that they can make an integration. And for Dynamics HR, they will also need the access to the Dataverse integrations, or you can say Dataverse database in the Power Platform. And in the Dynamics HR, the Dataverse configuration must be on, otherwise it will not sync the data when the worker is hired in the system. Into the demo now, how this can happen in the system. So first we have to log into the Power Platform. Let's say I'll some this. The first step is you have to select your environment. So in this case, this is my HR sandbox for the human resource. And you have to go to this environment. I already have solution created, so I'll just explain how this process can work in the system. Okay, till the time I'll show you the connection details in the Dynamics HR. So this is my Dynamics 365 HR application. So first we have to go to the system admin and click on links and database configuration. This must be on, otherwise the data will not sync from Dynamics HR to Power Platform. So once this is on, then we can just go to the Power Platform. Here we will need a Azure AD connector. So for Azure AD connector, we will need access as a admin. Otherwise, you cannot access the Azure AD connector. So first thing is we have to use the Dataverse connector in the Power Platform, and then you can use whether the worker information is added or modified. So then you have to provide the worker table in this case. And here I'm selecting the CDM underscore primary email address. So for example, you can hire an employee without the email address. That's possible. But if there is no email address, you cannot send information back to the Azure AD. So selecting the primary email address as a common so that I have to make sure there should be an email address for the worker. And once the worker is created, the next step is we have to create a password for the user. So here I am just giving as a random password. You can also create a random password with some functions. The third step is we have to get the worker which is created in the first step. And if you want to add few columns, that's possible. You have to use the OData query here or expand query. Then we have to make sure whether that user is already exists in the Azure Active Directory or not. So in this case, I'm using the Azure AD connector, and here I'm just checking the primary email address. So here first I'm getting the users, and then I'm checking the users whether the user is already exists in the system. If no, then it will create a user in the system, and this will add to the security group. And then if this is everything is OK, then I'm going to send an email to IT admin saying that new user is created in the Active Directory for that particular person. So let's see how we can do this in the system actually. This is my Active Directory and this is my user list. I'll take an example of this email ID for now, and let's go to the HR system. I will hire an employee. I have to provide the employment date for the user. OK, click on hire and add details. The next step is I have to add the contact information, and we have to make sure this contact information should be primary. So select the email address. I can say Philnox. So this is my custom domain. So I have to just click on the primary. And once I click save, OK. So I received the email saying that new user is created for the person FinOps community. So what I will do is I'll go to the users. It takes some time, so let's refresh few times. Okay, so you can see here the new user is created in the Azure Active Directory. So this is like showing the name, full name, first name, last name. Also, it is taking the user principal name from the system. Additionally, we can also add the job title, company name, department, and the manager. So then in the integration, we have to again make some loop with the position worker assignment, also with the job position entity, and then you can fill those information. So this is the first integration. Let me take to the. Okay. Then second integration. The second integration is about when a worker is modified in the system, this will update the user in Azure AD. So for example, when a person is married or a person got a promotion, they change their information such as a last name, job title, or department. So in that case, again, the integration will trigger and it will update the information in the Azure Active Directory. So we have to make sure we should have access to all those information like Azure AD, Power Platform, like what we did in the previous step. So I'll take to the system directly. So here I created a user called FinOps community in the system. I'll try to change the name of this worker. So let's say I say FinOps first demo, and I'll just say that okay, Power community. Um, Okay, let's check the integration. Now you can see I got one more email saying that the information is updated for this user. Okay, let's go to the Active Directory and users and just a refresh. Okay. So here you can see the user information is updated in the Azure AD. The name is also updated and first name and last name. And we can see how we can make this integration possible. Okay, so this is my integration. Let's click on edit. Okay. So in this case, we have to use Dataverse connector once again, and we have to use the change type as a modified because the worker information is modified. And here I'm just putting the info, the trigger on the last name. You can also use on the first name or on the department. That's possible. The second step is to get the record from the worker which is modified in the first step. And the third step is again we have to get the user from the Active Directory based on the primary email address. And here then we have to check whether that email is already exists in the system. If yes, then only we have to update the user and then we can send information to the IT admin team as an email. So they will come to know, okay, for this person, the user is updated the information. Let me go to the slide. Okay, then the third integration is about automatically mapping a user with the person. So at this stage, we don't have such functionality in the system to make it automatic, but we can also update the user in the system manually. But if in your but if your um, project or your customer is very big and they cannot do this manually, so then we can automate this solution for our customer so that this will be very easy for them. To make this happen, we have to make sure for some access to the system. So first thing is we have to register app in the Azure Active Directory for the Dynamics 365 HR. So like in the previous session, Rachit shown like how we can create the app in the Active Directory and how we can create the client ID and the secret key. So I'll repeat the same here. And then the next step is we have to add this client ID in the Azure Active Directory application in Dynamics 365 HR. And in this integrations, I'm going to use OData call like the REST API. And third and the last thing is we need access to the Power Platform. Okay, I'll take you to the system now. Okay, to register app in the Azure Active Directory, first we have to go to the portal.azure and then we have to click on the Azure Active Directory. And the next step is app registration. I already have app registration here, but I'll tell you how you can create. So when you create a new app registration, you have to make sure that you have to add the direct URL. So for example, if I go to the authentications, so here in this case, you can provide the namespace and the ID of your system. So for example, if I go to home, you can just copy this URL and you can just paste this URL to your app registration. That's the first thing. Second thing is the API permission. So in this case, for Dynamics 365 HR, we have to add the permission for talent. This is the old name using for the Dynamics HR, but we have to provide the API permission for this talent permissions. And then once this is done, we have to provide the grant admin consent for your tenant. So without grant admin consent, this will not work. And the third thing is we have to create a client ID. So I saw some questions like about, okay, why we have to use the client secret. Instead of client secret, we can also use the Azure Key Vault because Azure Key Vault, it will store all the informations there. So it's not a good idea to use client secret for the customer. Once this is done, we have to go to the Dynamics 365 HR and we have to add the client ID to the Azure Active Directory application. So in this case, I added the client ID here and I provided the service admin. So always we have to be careful. We should not add the normal person here like a employee from the system. We should always use the service account because if that person left the company, it's very difficult to manage the integration. So always use a generic or a service account. Okay, let me check the PPT. This is okay. To make this integration happen, we have to use some kind of logic for this integration. So first thing is we have to get all the users from the system and we already have the entity called system users, which will provide all the users from the Dynamics HR. And the second thing is we have to check whether the user is already assigned to a person's by using the entity person user system user entity. So this entity will give the person is assigned with the users. And then the third point is we have to get all the users from the system with their primary email address where there is no person assigned. And if there is no person assigned, then we have to only create a user in the system. So then next step is Get all workers from the system and their primary contact email based on the user email ID. And then the next step is check whether the party number exists for the in the person user entity. If there is no party number exists, then we have to create a record in the person users entity based on the user ID and the party number. Let me take to the system now. Okay. So till now we created the users in the Active Directory. Now we have to import that user to the Dynamics HR. So before we continue this integration, what I will do is I will go to the Active Directory here, and then I'll go to Dynamics HR System Admin. I'll click on Links, Users. I'll import the users from here. So I will take my users, which is created in this session. Okay. Um, okay, before we start the integrations, first we have to create an environment variable. So in this case, I created the environment variable for client ID, secret key, tenant, audience, and OData. So with this environment variable, if we have, let's say, if you want to create 10 Power Platform solution, so with this environment variable, you have to create only once and you can use in all your integrations. That's the first step. And the second step is we have to create some kind of the connection reference. For example, first we have to create connection for the Microsoft Dataverse connector. And if you want to send email, then you can create the connection for Outlook. So here I'm using the recurrence in my integration. So every day I'm checking the users. If the new users are created in the system, then this will automatically map a user with person. So I created some variables here. So like for example, email. Then second, I created the alias email. And the third is user ID and known as, and the primary contact email. So this variable is created to assign the values in the later stage. So first step is to get the users from the system. So with this entity system users, I will get all the users from the system. And then here I'm using the OData select command, which I will get only user ID, email, and the alias from the system users. And then I'm using the expand command, which will make a relation with the person user system user entity. And this will give me the user ID and the party number from the person user entity. Once I get the system user, then I'm parsing all those informations in a JSON format. And then I'm just doing the filtration on the system user. So I'm going to check only the users which doesn't have any party number or person assigned. So here you can see, I'm just checking if the person user entity is null, then only I will create a user. Then here I'm applying the apply each loop. So here in this case, I'm providing the information from the filter system users body. Here I'm assigning the email, like the variable we created in the earlier steps. So first I will assign the email from the previous steps. Here I will also assign the alias email. Also I will assign the user ID. And based on this information, I'll create one more HTTP trigger here, like a get method. This will give me all the informations from the workers entity. And here I'm just selecting the primary contact email known as and the party number, because we will need the party number in the later stage to create the to map the users with the person. And here I'm just checking if there is no primary contact assigned to the worker, then this integration will not work, because here the primary key is the primary contact email. Yeah, it can happen that multiple workers can have the same primary contact number. So in that case, this integration will only consider the first primary contact information, and this will skip the second primary contact information. And here also I'm checking whether the primary contact email should not be blank. If it is blank, it will skip the integration and this will not map a user with the person. So next step is I'm parsing all this information so that I can use in the later stage. So once I get all the workers from the system, I will again apply one more apply each loop. And here I will just provide the value from my parse worker body. So here I'm going to check whether the party number exists in the person user entity. If no, then this will create a user in the system. So here I'm just again doing the parsing JSON condition. So here I'm just putting the condition. If you see here, the length of the parse JSON value, if it is greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, then only it will create a record in the person user entity. So if you see here, to create a record in the person user entity, we have to use a post HTTP action here. And here I'm assigning the OData URL, which is from the environment variable. And this is the OData, and this is the person user entity. So only thing is here I have to assign only two values for the person user entity. First, I have to assign the party number. If the party number is blank, then this method will be completely skipped. And then the second is the user ID. So the user ID is from the earlier stage, the variable we created. So now if I try to run this integration, we'll see how this works. I already have this one here. This is there is no person assigned here. And if I go here and just say test. Okay, so you can see this integration is successful. Now, if I go to the users form and if I just say refresh, you can see a person is created here. And if I click on maintain versions, so then you can see a record is created here with current date and time, and expiration is never. So this is how this integration works in the real system. Okay, let me go to the I think I'm done with my demo. Any questions from anybody?
Hello, Parag. Okay, let's take a look.
Okay.
Right, no questions as of yet.
Okay, that's great. Okay, then thank you for your time.
Thank you, Parag.
If you
yeah, we've still got half an hour for the next session. Yeah, we've got a bit of a gap actually. So what we'll do is I think people can have a little break then, I guess. So our next session, let's take a look at our next session. So